Hello, and welcome to another episode of Solipsist Watched. I'm your host, the Social Solipsist, and this week I watched Bad Education, the 2019 HBO film, not the several other movies that are also called Bad Education or The Bad Education. This is actually technically a TV film, as in HBO made it. It didn't go to wide release and on in theaters or anything like that. So it is technically a TV movie, which may or may not be relevant to anyone's considerations. It is relevant to the awards it did and didn't win because it went to the Emmys instead of the Oscars. But anyway, why did I watch this? Well, after last week's watching of Thoroughbreds, I was curious about the director, Corey Finley, and wanted to see what his other directorial credit looked like. And I was I don't want to say pleasantly surprised. I was pleased to see that it wasn't a one-off effort. The directing and the cinematography in this film are quite good. But there are a whole lot of other aspects about it that also make it quite good. I will say it is not, it's HBO. If you know HBO, you know what they do well, you know what they don't do well. For all of their, willingness to engage in topics and things that other TV groups won't, it is not the same level of this film is by no means the same level of weird or artistic as I think Thoroughbreds is. That said, it's quite good in its own right. So this is it's a comedy drama documentary-ish. I mean, not documentary-ish, but like dramatization of a real event. It's essentially a sort of a crime film in things I would compare it to things like The Wolf of Wall Street or The Big Short or other things, based in some reality but adapted for the dramatization of it all. It's got a very good cast. It's got quite a few notable actors, but the two main actors being Hugh Jackman and Allison Janney, who I think are both incredible actors in their own right. Allison Janney in particular, I think, has not gotten... she's very well known, but I don't think she's gotten enough credit for what an incredible actor she really is in lots of different roles. And Hugh Jackman, likewise, has been in the pop culture sphere so much that I don't think he's always given credit for actually being quite a talented actor and stage performer as well. If you're not aware, he's also does lots of Broadway and those sorts of things, stage acting that he's quite good in. Anyway, so this film, where do I start with it? Well, I don't really have anything really strong to say about it other than I quite liked it. Unfortunately, if I have to compare it side by side with things like The Wolf of Wall Street, The Big Short, I, Tonya, whatever, these other based on a real weird person, that's a way to put it, based on a true story crime or pseudo-crime films, as it stacks up against those, it's a little bit hard to judge apples and oranges, if only by virtue of the fact it's made by HBO. Now, that's not to say HBO won't spend a lot of money on something, but versus one of the big movie studios, they're less likely to. And so, although I don't know that there's any documented budgeting for this film, I imagine the budget was much constricted from any of the things I would normally compare it to. However, they do a very good job with what they have. As I said, I think Corey Finley does a very good job of directing and in general, while it's a little bit more restrained in the artistry versus Thoroughbreds, you can still see some of those hints, especially in some of the quieter scenes, some of the long takes, some of the places where it is not so focused on the dialogue. And obviously, this is much more focused on the dialogue than Thoroughbreds is, having a lot more of it in general and a lot more characters. When it's not doing that, you see that, you know, Corey's abilities as a director still come through very well. Lots of interesting camera movement and nothing too crazy, but like very pleasant to watch. However, I do have one gripe about it, which is that this appears to have been shot on film. And actually, if it wasn't shot on film, this is extra bad. But the film that they shot on, or either that or the post-processing film effect that they put on it, although it does look like film, is a little bit, well, the film grain itself is a bit heavy. And I'm not going to get into a discussion right now of whether or not film grain is a good thing. I have mixed feelings on it. I think it can be appropriate, but it also depends dramatically on the film stock and the type of footage you're shooting and all those sorts of things. But I won't dig into that too much. What is a problem here is that, especially in a lot of these scenes, which are fairly low light, using the film, you see some of the film grain in a pretty excessive way. And there are some frames where damage to the film, that is flaws in the film stock itself, are extra apparent. And, you know, it's the kind of thing you don't see too often these days, because film stock typically has very tight parameters on it when it's produced, you know, these days, versus something like, you know, much older films where you see a lot of inconsistency in the film stock itself. So especially towards the end of the film, I noticed a couple of moments where there was like very visible issues with the film quality. Not like so much as to distract, but, you know, if you were paying attention to it or looking for it or noticed the film grain at all, you'd probably notice that as well. Generally speaking, Corey Finley is only the director on this one, versus having written Thoroughbreds as well. The story and dialogue here are generally quite good, but I do have some issues. The dialogue itself, I think, almost universally is very good. However, the beats of the story are a little bit messy, and in fact, looking up some information after the fact, some of the artistic liberties taken with the truth of the story this was based on, I think some of the liberties they took to make it more dramatic or more interesting really actually detracted from the overall a variety of aspects of the story as a whole, and in particular the pacing. There's a subplot involving a character in another location that really doesn't add a ton to the plot as a whole, and can be, I think, is more distracting than helpful, even if it does help to narratively contextualize the events and paint a more human picture. But I think they could have accomplished the same thing without that being necessary. This movie is a bit over an hour and a half long. I think it's an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. So it's not a super long runtime as well. And unfortunately, what I just mentioned, along with some general pacing issues, I think detract from the the pacing of the film as a whole. While the dialogue is very good, and most of the scenes are generally very good, there are one or two scenes I can think of that add very little. Potentially could have been excised completely with no side effects, or very minimal side effects that could have been fixed by some very minor rewrites to the script, and generally would have left the film, the story of it, a little bit more time to breathe. That is the one thing I would say about the the acting as well, is that it's all very good, but if they had just given every scene like 10% more time to breathe, I think it would have taken this to another level. Admittedly, like, it's hard. I think the comparison probably comes from watching Alice and Janney in this, but I can't help but compare this as well to something like The West Wing, and things that Aaron Sorkin has made, basically, because Aaron Sorkin is an incredible writer. Hard to match Sorkin dialogue and direction. And that's not, I'll fully admit, that's not a fair comparison to make, because he is one of the best at his craft in the business ever. But I couldn't help but make the comparison and feel that, man, these scenes are Sorkin-esque, but they're just not, they don't quite have the level of experience necessary to execute that same nuance and get that like last bit of polish on a scene. So yeah, I mean, credit where it's due. It's hard to really hold that against the film, if only, like I said, Sorkin is an incredible asset to the industry, and legendary in all rights. But I can't help but in my mind have that comparison. If you'd never seen anything by Sorkin, then you probably wouldn't notice it. So yeah, generally speaking, quite pleased with the film. It's got an interesting and worthwhile plot, good characters, good acting, a level of emotional depth and nuance to the characters that it's not, watching villainous people or one note characters that even if they're well, it's easy to have a character that is well written but not that nuanced, and I think this does both. So that's welcome and refreshing. And generally speaking, I mean, HBO generally knows their stuff. I mean, that's a big blanket statement. HBO is a big company. But yeah, generally just had a good time with it. If you've got, an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, it's, I think it's a worthwhile watch, especially if you enjoy, crime, drama, comedy rooted in some level of reality. This is set in the early 2000s. And it was kind of bizarre. The end credits, the song, I think the song is called White Flag, by Dido. Hold on. I'm checking that. Because I haven't heard that song in at least a decade, and hearing it play over the end credits of the film it's not entirely appropriate. And also just like having heard that song a lot when it came out in 2003, it says, because it was playing on the radio all the time, and then never not hearing it for a decade and having it come up at the end of this film was like not entirely inappropriate because it's contemporary to the setting, but like still kind of bizarre and not really tonally appropriate. So that's just like a personal note on it. It was pretty weird. Anyway, so yeah, check it out if this is the kind of thing that interests you. It's well made. Thank you guys for watching another episode, and I will see you guys next time.